The moment Jenna and I stepped into the office party, something felt off. The room didn't welcome us, examined us. People glanced at her with admiration, but when their eyes shifted to me, the expressions changed to puzzled sympathy. What unsettled me most was how unfazed Jenna seemed by all of it. She moved through the crowd like she belonged there entirely, while I felt like a prop she brought along out of obligation. I stayed quiet, watching the atmosphere settle around us, sensing a truth hidden beneath the noise of chatter and music. Something was waiting to surface, something she never thought I would uncover. I noticed how she interacted with her colleagues. Too friendly, too touchy, laughing too loudly at jokes that barely counted as jokes. She introduced me as if she were checking a box quick, distracted, barely looking at me. She didn't hold my arm, didn't acknowledge me beyond a name. It was subtle, but enough to piece together a pattern. She had created a version of herself here, one where I barely existed. Every time a coworker gave me that confused, almost apologetic look. Another fragment of the truth clicked into place. Then her boss appeared. Daniel walked toward us with the confidence of someone used to being the loudest voice in any room. He crossed his arms, studied me from head to toe, and wore a smug expression that suggested he already knew something I didn't, something someone had fed him. He looked at me like I was the last person who should have been there. And then he delivered the line that cut the entire room in half. So you're the ex she keeps mentioning. The sentence didn't just hurt, it sliced through the air with harsh precision. The music faded into a distant hum. The lights felt painfully bright. Conversations around us came to an abrupt halt. People turned their heads slowly, eager to witness whatever was about to unfold. Jenna whipped around, her face draining of color. She looked exposed, cornered, as if someone had just pulled the rug out from under her in front of an audience. I didn't look at Daniel again. I looked at her, really looked, and everything snapped into clarity. The pitying glances, the hushed whispers, the strange behavior from her coworkers. She had wiped me out of her work life, rewritten our marriage into something convenient for her reputation. She didn't want to be seen as a wife. She wanted to be seen as available, exciting, unattached. She never imagined I would hear it from her own boss. She braced herself for me to explode, yell, or storm out. But I didn't give her that. I turned back to Daniel with a steady calm, sharper than any outburst. I suppose I am starting now. The reaction was immediate. A gasp rippled across the room. Someone dropped a glass. Daniel's smirk vanished. The silence grew heavy enough to swallow the air. Jenna broke instantly. She reached for me with shaking hands, whispering my name like she couldn't believe this was happening. "No, please, that's not what I meant," she whispered in a frantic rush. But the truth was already burning into everyone's memory. What destroyed her wasn't my words, it was my calm. Calm meant I had made my decision. Calm meant I understood everything. Calm meant she had already lost. She tugged at my sleeve, breath uneven, eyes glassy with panic. I stepped back, her fingers catching nothing but air. For the first time in years, she realized she no longer held any influence over me. Her coworkers watched without hiding it anymore. The people she worked so hard to impress were now witnessing the collapse of the persona she had created. Daniel attempted some clumsy excuse, but no one paid attention. Every spotlight in that room was on her unraveling. She tried to claim it was a joke, a misunderstanding, something she never meant. But each attempt only exposed her desperation further. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse her. I simply said, quietly and with absolute finality, "If you've been calling me your ex, then that's exactly who I'll be." Her legs nearly buckled. She grabbed my arm like she was drowning, but I eased away again, watching her face crumble. She finally understood what she had thrown away, my respect, my trust, my presence. When I turned toward the exit, people stepped aside. No one met her eyes anymore. Their admiration had turned to shock, disappointment, and in some of them, amusement. She hurried after me, begging, but I walked with a steady, controlled pace. For the first time, She experienced the fear of losing something she had always assumed would stay. Outside. Beneath the cold night air, she broke completely sobbing, shaking, apologizing over and over. But the pain she expected to see in me wasn't there. What I felt instead was clarity. Because the truth wasn't that she had made some one-off joke. The truth was she had built a life where she could pretend to be single at work, while keeping me waiting at home. And now she was finally facing the consequences. That night, everything shifted. Not because I shouted. Not because I left in anger, but because she realized that the quietest man in the room is usually the one who ends things on his own terms.